peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
Good morning, Africa. Good morning, wherever you are in the world. Good morning, viewers, those watching us from sub-Saharan Africa, watching us in Britain, in America, in China, Russia, Australia, Canada, South America, those watching us on the continent of Africa. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever, which time zone you are. Those watching us in Uganda, Kampala, Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, Asmara, Eritrea, Addis Ababa, the headquarters of the African Union. Good morning. Good morning, those in Nairobi. Thank you very much for watching Punchline Africa Television, a Pan-African station, a station that discusses Africa, a station defends Africa, finds out what ails Africa, what kills Africa. This is Punchline Africa Television. I am Dr. David Matsanga from the Political Command Center of Punchline Africa Television in London, back to Nairobi headquarters, where Miriam Ogutu is on standby to take us through the topic under this show, diplomatic leaks. Diplomatic leaks, Miriam and the panel, Musa Haji, our new resident panelist, all the way from Isiolo. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. A brilliant team. Isiolo is next to Meru. We have another brilliant mind. Thank you. Welcome, Musa Haji, or Mr. Haji from Isiolo. Good morning.
Morning, sir.
Thank you. Next to Isiolo is a gentleman from Meru, a no-nonsense, hard-hitting man from Meru. Mr. Douglas Kirimi, good morning.
Good morning, Dr. David Matsanga from the Political Command Center. Good morning to Miriam at our headquarters and also to our crew. And also good morning to Musa Haji in Isiolo County, my neighbor.
Thank you very much, neighbors. We are miles away. You are also miles away from Miriam. But we have been brought about by Zoom, which is the global market, global village. The world is together. Doesn't matter where you come from. I have that theory in my heart. Whether you're Ugandan and you live in Uganda, I have no problem. If you're Ugandan and you live in Tanzania, I have no problem. If a Tanzanian lives in Uganda, I'll never have a problem. I live in Britain. The British have never had a problem with me. Therefore, why should we Pan-Africans be paracho to have a problem with somebody living in some place near your place or not even near your garden? Thank you very much. This topic is a touchy topic. I hand it over to Miriam to go through for us the modalities of this show. Thank you. Over to you, Miriam, in the headquarters.
All right. Thank you so much, Doctor, for that introduction. Now, we know that Kenya has, for the fourth time, written to the ICJ to try to, postpone the hearing of this case that is scheduled to take place next month. But Somalia came out the other day and protested at that move. And, Doctor, there's a letter you've written to the ICJ, and the story was carried out on the Capital FM website there. And part of it says, you wrote, Mr. Secretary General, we believe that any ruling at ICJ at any time about the maritime border dispute will spark a vicious war in a region where the conflict of Somalia still rages on. So perhaps that is where we should start our conversation today.
Thank you very much, Miriam Eble, introduced the topic on the diplomatic leaks. Miriam, last night, through my contacts in the United Nations Security Council and the United Nations headquarters, I delivered on the email of the Secretary General a letter independently from Pan-African Forum UK Limited, stating the reasons as to why I believe the case between Somalia and Kenya should not be even conducted for now. I am seeking a deferral. What is a deferral? A deferral is under at Chapter 7 of the United Nations Security Council, Article 39 and 40. When there is reasonable seeing, anybody with knowledge who has studied international law, international relations, like Musa Abdi Haji and the others, Kirimi, Miriam, any student of international law will know either way, whichever way the court calls, whichever way the court discusses this case, it creates tension between Somalia and Kenya. It creates tension on our only route, trading route in the Indian Ocean. It therefore creates tension to regional peace and national, regional, and international peace. Viewers, my basis of writing the letter to the Secretary General, I wanted to bring it escalate, and I want to repeat, I am not a diplomat. I want to repeat this, Miriam. Allow me to say, I am not a diplomat. I am an activist. I don't take instructions from any country to do what I'm supposed to do. Period. When I see an international obligation running down on my neck, going to create chaos, when I see people being killed, when I see ICC being unfair, when I see ICC becoming a lazy organization, what do? I move to take action. I move to make sure that the world understands what it really means, what this case will bring. This case, both Kenya, I'm not on the side of Kenya, neither am I on the side of Tanzania, of Somalia. I want to stand firm. And I have asked the Secretary General, as the line manager of ICJ, which is International Court of Justice, to notify the Secretary General that yes, he might disagree with Matanga, that the matter is in court. But once this court is discussed, once these maritime border boundaries are discussed in court, believe me or not, whichever way you want to discuss it, it will cause tension between Kenya and Somalia. That is my position. The Secretary General can agree, or the Secretary General can disagree. He's not God. He is there because God told him to be there to guide us on international law. When the UN Charter was formed, the United Nations Security Council under Chapter 7 constituted a charter, Article 39 and 40, that if the United Nations Security Council sees and can see a problem that is going to come out as a result of any international dispute, any international conflict that is before their organs. This is, and I repeat, this is deferred. A deferral, therefore, does not mean the end of the matter. A deferral could mean Somalia and Kenya can go out and sit down on a chair, on a table, under a tree, under the ocean, if they want, in a submarine that can be brought by Americans or by Russians or by Chinese or by French. They can go underground water if they cannot be able to do anything up on top of water. Sit down, arrange themselves, and be able to discuss the maritime conflict. We have lived together. Africa has lived together since 1884, when Bismarck decided to take unilateral decisions to cut Africa in two pieces. The maps that people talk about did not exist. There was only one map in the world called God map. None of us has God map, original God map. If Mr. Musa Abdi Haji Garma has a God is called the first map of God, it will be very good. If any of you on the panel has one map, it will be very excellent. But allow me to say this. Where did we go wrong? Where did Somalia and Kenya differ? Why is it that there have been 5 governments in Somalia, or 3 governments or so in Somalia, but there has never been a problem between Kenya and Somalia over these islands, or these pockets that we see in the Mediterranean, in the Indian Ocean? That is our position. That's my position.
All right, thank you so much. Musa Abdi, I know you're quite familiar with this story. I don't know what you make of Kenya wanting to defer this case for the 4th time. But the ICJ, rejected Kenya's bid to have the maritime delimitation in the Indian Ocean case with Somalia postponed for another 4th time. I don't know. What do you make of all this case, of maritime case between Kenya and Somalia, before we get into it?
Thank you so much, Miriam. Thank you, Dr. Matsanga and Douglas. I think to this position, I will strongly and objectively agree with Dr. Matsanga on the advent of deferral of this case because of one thing, and it is very clear. When we speak of the relations between Somalia and Kenya, I think we can go beyond the relations or the dispute we have as far as this maritime issue is concerned. And we are saying deferral because of one thing. We are saying deferral for this matter, even geopolitically. This century, I will say, Miriam, African states are handling a lot of this. We are handling a lot of this, African states, just to be objective enough. The other day, Kenya just came out of the South Sudanese chaos, the United Nations peacekeeping force, and Kenya Defense Forces was in South Sudan, whereby upon the advent of Riek Machar and Salva Kiir, differences, Kenya was there to help these guys. The other day, you've seen the chaos happening in Ethiopia, whereby the Tigray region, you remember how the defiance of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has led to that region, causing a humanitarian havoc, whereby over 300,000 people have fled to Sudan border as we are speaking because of the tension and the conflict in that region. And Miriam, to make it even, more difficult for any African state to engage in such advent of, leadership and, territorial or, maritime issues, the world is in transition. two superpowers are in transition, Miriam. The other day, we came from a very anarchic and chaotic global order of Donald Trump to Joe Biden, just less than a month ago. Britain, the United Kingdom, the leader of the Commonwealth, is finalizing on how now the post-Brexit deal can be maneuvered, on how, the states in Africa, the Commonwealth, will be conducting its business with these, with these powers. So these two superpowers, to make it even more difficult, another superpower, that is China, they are battling COVID-19, Miriam. This is the kind of, situation we are in. And I found it so mysterious that Somalia has decided, if indeed we could have been objective, as Dr. Matsanga said, then in the fear of COVID-19, Kenya should have decided to close down the Dadaab refugee camp and the Kakuma refugee camp to curb the pandemic spread. If indeed we could have been mischievous as Kenya. And even to that extent, Kenya never touched on this Dadaab and Kakuma issue. We never touched. Refugees have been coming in. They have been going out at a voluntary, stage.
And they still come in.
And they're still coming. And when I see Somalia now, what made them decide so quickly that in 2018, 2019, that they have to trigger this maritime issue? Remember, Somalia has even one of the most rich and one of the richest and one of the most rare minerals in the world. That is uranium. So Miriam, he who's mining uranium can talk about oil, can talk about, maritime issue in the Indian Ocean. They have never talked about that. They have never talked about, the uranium issue in the northern part of that nation. Now they are talking about, the advent of this mining activity. I mean, the maritime activity in Indian Ocean. And I can objectively reveal the intention behind this, Miriam. Dr. Matsanga even will help me in this. Somalia is strategic. I mean, they are in a strategic position in the Horn of Africa. On the northern part, the Red Sea, the Gulf of Aden, the Indian Ocean. Somalia are being misled by our Arab countries, the GCC. You remember how United Arab Emirates, they are really investing in Somalia. We understand Turkey's influence in Somalia. The other day, they opened their first charter flight of the Turkish Airlines to Somalia. We understand their interest, the interest of the GCC. But now they are being misled that you don't have to have a good relation with your neighbor. You can trade with us. I can confidently say, if Somalia decide to focus east, the only country Somalia can trade with is Seychelles, nothing else. These guys are facing the Messiah complex of what Libya went through, Miriam, of what Egypt went through, of what Tunisia went through, thinking that even by being in Africa, we belong to the Arab world, then we can do business with these guys. Look at now what Libya is facing. Khalifa Haftar of United Arab Emirates is fighting from the eastern side. Turkish brothers are fighting from the Mediterranean side. The government of National Accord is being supported by United Nations with no help. I think Somalia should take a very good example from those neighbors. And to make it work, politics aside, President Uhuru Kenyatta has been perfect, has been excellent as far as selling Kenyan foreign policy abroad is concerned. So Somalia has been misled by the GCC countries, thinking that they can trigger trade deals with them at the expense of, bridging, or creating this maritime issue. And Dr. Matsanga will agree with me, that triggered President Uhuru Kenyatta to welcome on board Somaliland, and even the Kenyan government is planning to open a consulate earlier this March in that part of the country. So I don't know, Somalia, they are forgetting that we are harboring the largest refugee camp in Africa. We've been offering them training facilities and support under AMISOM group. Let me tell you, Miriam, one arm of government in Somalia is having its office in Kenya. There was a time the Somali legislative arm of the government, parliament, were having its sessions in Kenya, Nairobi.
Absolutely.
And even there was a joke the other day that 99% of Somali politicians are living in South Sea, Miriam. And when now you decide to be petty, just over a triangular section of the land, you decide to forsake your neighbor. Remember the largest living Kenyan Somali community in Isili. We've been living peacefully with them without any problem. And now when Somalia decided to focus on such a petty issue of taking Kenya to ICJ, I'm telling you, it's going to be difficult for Somalia because of one thing. No one can listen to them. Not United States of America. Miriam, you remember United States of America, we have military, we have defense pact with them, we have economic pact with them. United Kingdom, we have humanitarian pact with them, we have wildlife conservation pact with them. You remember the history of Queen Elizabeth, Miriam, when she was declared to be the queen while she was in Kenya. We have a lot of soft and hard power relations. And when now GCC, the Gulf States Council, Arab Emirates and Qatar are trying to lie to you that, you can defy your neighbors, then there is no place you're going. I think Somalia, I thought, even now to make it worse, this is internal politics, Miriam. Election is underway in Somalia, and most likely what we are foreseeing is that President Farmajo might not defend his seat because of some relative issues here and there. And now President Farmajo has seen the only way he can assert his influence is by triggering, foreign policy agenda with its neighbors, of which even constitutionally Somalia has failed. The date for election, Miriam, for your information, and Dr. Matsanga knows this, has already passed.
Yes.
And Somalia is in a constitutional crisis. Why are you focused on neighbors' issue while you have really failed to solve what's happening in your Somalia? Somalia is a country of 16 million people, which has, imagine 16 million people, Miriam, and you have 3 presidents. Somalia has been divided. They have Puntland, they have Jubaland, they have Somaliland, they have hinterland. Now, instead of, re-strategizing after the government of Siad Barre have destroyed that nation, instead of building good relations with your neighbor, you are trying to forge for some kind of, what even Dr. Matsanga would call unwanted attention and aggressiveness, in the international system.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Musa, for that outline. And you've mentioned these countries, and I see in Doctor's letter to the United Nations Secretary General there, he's included, and part of it, Doctor says, Farmajo seems to be in a predicament due to the undue pressure by external forces, namely Turkey, UAE, and Qatar, Norway, and to some extent France. And I think this has become very obvious because all these countries have interest there in Somalia. Now that Somalia looks like it's about to stabilize, so there's a lot of opportunities there in Somalia. The external interference, Douglas, to what extent is it detrimental to Somalia and the people of Somalia, and do the leadership in that country even care?
Thank you, Miriam. We need to understand that after these countries started now having issues with Somalia and also having issues with Kenya, these are resource-greedy countries. We held that Somali Oil and Gas Conference in London. Kenya was not involved. It was a Somalia affair where they went on to auction the oil blocks in Indian Ocean. And when they said they removed the map, exactly on the place where Kenya has a disputed area. Kenya is disputing it belongs to them, and also Somalia disputed it belongs to them. So Somalia should desist from these resource-greedy Western allies that don't mean anything well for Somalia. If, for example, Norway was more interested in pacification of peace in Somalia, Norway would have played a huge role since 1991 when Siad Barre, the uncle of Farmajo, fell and also his government was toppled. But these resource-greedy countries that continue undermining the interests of our two countries, which are interconnected, and also the destiny of these nations are together. No matter what happens, no matter what Farmajo does, these countries will continue working together. We have students from Somalia who study in Kenyan universities. We have a very vibrant Kenyan Somali community in this country that are working. There are numerous investments in this nation that belong to the other country. But at the end of the day, when you see these resource-greedy powers that want to continue undermining the people of Somalia, at the behest of a few people, greedy people in Mogadishu, at Vira, Somalia, where Farmajo sits. When you continue watching what is unfolding, you see that these resource-greedy people and also Western allies are not up to any good, because they want to destroy what has been the history, and you cannot revise history, you cannot revise what has happened between Kenya and Somalia. Like Musa said, we formed the government in Somalia after the fall of Siad Barre. We funded them with our taxpayers. Their offices were and cabinet meetings were being held at Tricol Agency. But when you look at it from a very clear point of view, is that these allies continue undermining, especially Norway, that declared their bid to buy the oil breaks. They continue funding and also separating the reality with the people that are in Vira, Somalia, because the leaders that are selling the oil blocks don't represent the people of Somalia. If the people of Somalia are asked if this tension between Kenya and Somalia should continue, they would opt out, because they would opt to continue cooperating with Kenya, because it is to their mutual benefit when they continue cooperating with Kenya. But these Western allies continue and also continue funding Somalia and Farmajo and his administration so that they can buy the oil blocks, and that is where their interest is. But the interest and regional ambitions of Kenya and other countries is that Somalia will live well as a country, and also Somalia will continue exercising its power as a sovereign country, and also for the peace of the people of Somalia. But for these people, they want to exploit the resources and nothing more. What is the contribution of Qatari and Turkey and also Norway to the people of Somalia? When you look at it critically, it is nowhere to be found to what regional or intranations in Africa, in the Horn of Africa and East Africa have contributed to Somalia. So Miriam, I think Somalia should now come to a point where they need to cooperate with our country and also cooperate with other regional powers, so that our ambitions as a region will be taken care of, versus the greedy resource Western allies that their own interest is to take the resources from Somalia people and also exploit them, Miriam.
All right, thank you so much. And in this story that Capital FM carried out on that letter that Dr. Matsanga wrote to the United Nations Secretary General, a part of it there, I see, reads, Kenya is among countries contributing troops to Somalia under the AMISOM. In fact, the situation is made worse when one considers that Kenya, through AMISOM, is one of the reasons why Somalia has a semblance of stability. Dr. Matsanga added, do you think Somalia this far has perhaps taken the help that Kenya has been offering it for granted? Doctor?
Miriam, I'm the author of the letter, and I'm trying to be balanced in the middle, so that the Somalis don't point fingers at me. And today I've left the whole game on you people to subject this letter to scrutiny. But I will make statements that point to where the problem was. Musa Haji and Kirimi have pointed out two things. One, Musa Haji pointed out a situation. What has changed? Kirimi also pointed out what has changed. We have lived together as brothers for a long time. The biggest problem that has changed on Somalia is Museveni has influenced Farmajo. I think I bring the whole problem to the table of Kirimi. That's your favorite food. You know, Mr. Museveni has come and taken over Farmajo. Because Mr. Museveni, for him, he doesn't recognize international bodies. You know, that's what he talks. He said, I don't recognize these international bodies, and I'm not bothered about them. What did I hear? I hear the European Union is putting sanctions on me. Do I go to Europe? This is the level of what is happening in our region. President Museveni, the UPDF have taken over supervision, engagement, security of Farmajo. Miriam, earlier on, you brought up a topic where Uganda, Somali members of Electoral Commission were being taught by Uganda on how to conduct elections. And one viewer asked, surely, of all countries, you want to send your Electoral Commission officers to Uganda to learn how to do an election in your country? That's Uganda has never had a record of a free and a fair election in its 35 years. So how do you send your children who are brighter than even those guys? You send them. If Somalia had sent people to United Kingdom to go and study election monitoring and supervision and observation and election procedure, I would be very happy. But you send your electoral commissioners to a country called Uganda. A Uganda where election, even ballot papers, in one of the polling stations near the electoral commission in Chambok, they have not arrived to the polling station. 1 month past the electoral commission. Those things are still moving like a snail, moving from its shell towards the sea to go and produce more eggs. So we have a problem. That's point number one. Point number two, Miriam, Somalia has been invaded by war merchants. 1, Turkey. 2, Qatar. 3, France. 4, Norway. 5, United Arab Emirates. Those are war merchants. When you talk about the Ottoman Empire, anybody who has studied political science to the level of anybody in the world, whether a degree level or a diploma level, you will know the operations of Ottoman Empire. The hangover of an Ottoman Empire. That's why you see very many people are wearing suits from Turkey. Yes. Turkey has arrived. The deputy president of Kenya wears suits from Turkey, mixed colors, and then he goes to the platform to harass the president who gave him powers even to buy those suits. There is that influence coming from the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire had 3 doctrines. Kill, one of them was to kill. The second empire doctrine was to grab. To grab. They grab what they have, the diamond. If they see uranium, they will grab. The third was to indoctrinate religiously. 3 doctrines. They succeeded. Why the Ottoman Empire failed to capture a territory anywhere in Africa and remained there permanently, Miriam, is because one of the factors, the 3, was higher than the other. And what was that factor? It was greed. They captured more money. They went back to build Ankara. If you go to Ankara, you see the underground in Turkey. If you go to the other capital city of Turkey, there are 2, Ankara and
Istanbul.
Istanbul. That was the main imperial power base where everybody, any ruler, any ships, any merchandise was dropped in Istanbul. You can even look at the buildings. You can go in the museum. Look at what they did. They grabbed, so they forgot to annex a territory because they got what they wanted. You have never found, have you found a clan of Somalis in Turkey? Did they carry any people back to Turkey? Show me one clan in Turkey that has got Somali nationals or has got Kenyans whom they found, or they have got Ethiopians whom they passed around Asmara when the Emperor Haile Selassie and the Lion of Judah was the conqueror. Show me one tribe of Mozambicans. But if you look at the Portuguese and the Arabs, the Oman Empire, those who came later on, who conquered and removed the Ottoman Empire, the Portuguese, the Chinese. Chinese have a record in Mombasa. Their first ship sank down in that deep seas. If you look at the Portuguese, they left us Makonde. Makonde has been made one of the tribes of Kenya. They left history. They got people from Mozambique, dumped them at the coast. They were interested in human integration, cultural exchange. But the Ottoman Empire was interested in grabbing tangible gold, diamonds, and other things, metals that were needed back in Istanbul. They have come back again. They are grabbing, they want to grab, they want to fight over Somalia. They want influence over Somalia. That is another problem. The second problem is Qatar. Qatar influences the foreign policy of Somalia. So if the people don't know that Qatar sustains this government, as much as the European Union and AU are sustaining Somalia, Qatar has come in with its money from the oil riches, from its oil. The oil riches in the Gulf is drying up. You notice there is nobody talking about Iran anymore. Even on the world stage, nobody is mentioning Iran, as if there are no people dying in Iran. COVID is killing heavily in Iran. The World Health Organization, if the World Health Organization, which is supposed to be independent, does not mention the word Iran. And yet, Miriam, a huge number of Iranians are dying. The security policies that are used by the dark forces, merchants of war, have come back to play, and they are trying to play in the Indian Ocean. That is why I stood up and told high to write a letter. To the United Nations Secretary General. He can choose to ignore it if he thinks I'm stupid. But we as East Africans, get that copy, keep it. Even if I'm not around, if I'm still around, you will call me and say I was right. If I'm not around, remember me. I warned you. Anything to do with this case of Somalia and Kenya must be deferred. Deferral instruct Somalia to go and do something with Kenya. Sit down. Let's get mediators. The oil fields in the Indian Ocean are God's oil fields. Similar things have happened between Cameroon and Nigeria, between Angola and DRC Congo. There are so many things that have happened where people have decided that if this is the case, let's all of us benefit from the oil blocks. Why can't Somalia and Kenya sit down? How many oil blocks are these? If there are 10, can we have 5-5 without talking about territory? Can we bring in joint ventures, 50% to drill the oil so that we develop our economies? Are there people who can think like that in the world? That's why I've written the Secretary General to invoke, to provoke, as he sits to drink his tea this morning, as the United States of America opens this morning. Dr. Matsanga's letter is smiling on his email. He's my friend for a long time from Khartoum. We used to do a lot of work when he was an undersecretary for peace, and when we have met quite a lot with him when he was working. We have discussed quite a lot of things in various agencies on Darfur, on South Sudan, on the Ugandan war, Northern Uganda war. I have been there. The conflict can be averted. We can avert the conflict. We can remove the conflict of going to court. I want to leave the panel with to ask one thing, Miriam. If, and I want you to give me honest answer, all of you, that if the judge in The Hague decides that the oil fields belong to Somalia, or the oil fields belong to Kenya, God forbid for Somalia and God forbid for Kenya. Now let's be neutral. I am just trying to be above. If the judge decides that day, what will happen? Just be honest and tell me what will happen if the judge decides that the oil fields belong to Somalia. Kenya will do what? If it decides they belong to Kenya, what will Somalia do? I leave the question to the panel. And all of you, including Miriam, if you can give me an answer, you know what will happen. All of you know what will happen. So I am simply alerting the world. My role as an activist is to alert the world. And to those watching me, diplomats, studying diplomacy and international relations, once you come out as an activist, you are no longer a diplomat. An activist faces tear gas. An activist faces imprisonment. An activist goes to firing squad. An activist is killed. An activist is poisoned. An activist is imprisoned. Activism leads you to those type of challenges that you have. But I am not deterred by those challenges and obstacles. I will continue to write so that the governments, both Somalia and Kenya, after receiving my letter today, they must think twice. Do we need to go next week or 2 weeks to come or 3 weeks to come? Do we need to go to The Hague to waste the little money or sit in our offices trying to exchange long legal battles over something that God has a map, but not you? There is no map that you can have apart from God's map. Can both countries think? Because most of the time, some people in Mogadishu have been thinking I am against them, especially those who don't like me. Those who don't like me. They call me like Zach says I'm a Ugandan. But Zach, Ugandans are in Mogadishu. They are the ones making you eat food. If they were not there, you would not be eating food on the streets of Mogadishu. And I go to the hotel and I enjoy and I go to prayers. Ugandans are there. They have sacrificed. So you don't want me to talk It is my business because my Ugandan troops are in Mogadishu. I have a right. And I have a right to criticize and tell the truth that the influence that has been brought about by President Museveni towards Farimajo is the main obstacle. That is why you see Farimajo is no longer bothered about Kenya. That answers Musa Haji's position. Why is Farimajo? He's not bothered about Kenya. He doesn't value Kenya anymore. He has got a partner who extends term limits. He has now also extended the term limit. He has been indoctrinated by a general who came with good intentions, ended up being worse than Obote and Idi Amin. He has gone there. He's now being given tortured and tutored. Tutorials are coming from Entebbe, Kampala, directed to Farimajo. And when you teach a man who has low grades like Farimajo, he could run very fast thinking, oh, boss, oh, boss. You know, that's why Mr. Farimajo cannot come to Kenya. He used to come to Kenya. His children used to come to Kenya. Now the children fly over Kenya into Uganda. They are there. There is bad influence of changing the constitution through the parliament coming from Uganda. There's bad influence of detaining political opponents. Hasn't Farimajo detained political opponents? Yes. There is bad influence of assassinating political opponents. Is Farimajo not finishing other people, threatening them? That is the nexus of the whole situation in the Indian Ocean. Coupled with all this, Miriam, therefore, if the Secretary General is not going to tell the world the lies, because for me, I don't mind. I call a spade a spade. Kenya is on the United Nations Security Council. The diplomats in New York must keep themselves busy to resolve this conflict, to seek a devour. You can go and ask anybody. Go and ask anybody who teaches international relations that why did we put there chapter 7 of the United Nations Security Council? Why was it put there in the UN Charter? It was for invoking when peace was at a breaking point. When you want to destroy peace and bring conflict, the UN has a mandate to look at what is going to happen. And then it can therefore send this subject back to the sender, to the drawing board, to the AU. Why is it that the AU has a constitutive authority? Why is yesterday I was speaking to the South African official in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And Miriam and the panel, believe me or not, guess what they told me? They are going to rescind their position for having supported Muhammad Musa Faki. That's how I work. I'm very deadly on that type of work. Quietly. I'm going to embarrass Muhammad Musa Faki because it's not worth it. Kenyans have kept quiet because Raila Odinga has a flag. Raila Odinga now has a flag of AU flying. He's not talking. He's not talking. But these countries are going to war. Yes, I am not Dr. Raila Amolo Odinga. He's done very well to be High Commissioner for Africa on infrastructure. What infrastructure will you do when Somalia and Kenya have tomahawks flying in the Indian Ocean, blocking the Red Sea trading route that goes to China, Philippines, Australia, Malaysia, Singapore, Japan? Show me. show me. That is me. And that is what I stand for. And that is my position. I have no regrets for that. I am told Mr. Abud Aziz from Stockholm would like to join. Mr. Abud Aziz, you can join the discussion. Miriam can, bring you in. You can get the number, put the number on the chat, 399-535-8320. Then password is 503670. Anybody in Mogadishu who wants to comment on this issue, join in by Zoom and talk to us. We don't mind a divergent view. We are welcome. We are well organized to repulse any of those divergent views. Miriam.
All right. Thank you so much, Doctor, for that. So there's a part in that letter that you wrote. There are millions of Africans in East Africa and in the Horn of Africa region who are worried about the Kenya-Somalia case at the ICJ. The world cannot afford another hostile region after the Libyan Mediterranean chaos that was caused by the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1970 that dismembered Libya. Does this case between Kenya and Somalia, Abdi, from where you sit, has the potential of escalating to those levels and what we see now that has become of Libya?
Yeah, thank you, Miriam. And Dr. Matsanga said, I want anyone on the panel to tell me what will happen if Somalia will decide or ICJ will decide that the maritime issue and the maritime border will belong to Somalia, or the boundaries the mining rights of the oil will belong to Kenya. The answer is very simple. Dr. Masanga knows this very well. We shall be destroying the relations which we've built for years. You understand how the relations between these two countries have been so bonded and have been so strong and have been so, mutual. From the Kenyan perspective, I know that the refugee camp will close. I know humanitarian crisis will be at its highest level ever. I understand that very well. I know the Kenyan Somali community living in this country will not be at peace, Miriam. I know very well that Kenya, even for aggression, Kenya have decided to withdraw and to have an exit plan for the AMISOM troops in 2021. Just for aggression, they might extend and, do, one or two things, havoc may come about. And to the Somalian side, our Meru brothers, Douglas, Mirage shall no longer be exported to Somalia. We know that very well. Trade, flow of goods shall be at risk. And so, Miriam, I think what we are lacking in this, a very big gap between Kenya and Somalia is what I will call ingenuine diplomacy. We are not true to ourselves. In genuine diplomacy in a way that everyone is at an ego now. Everyone is at an ego. In that, what I will call ego in this sense is that, yes, every nation has an entitlement to territorial integrity and sovereignty of their states, but now no one is ready to listen to one another. And if neighbors fail to listen to one another, the two neighbors, even if we will bring the third party to be the neighbor from another side of the world, then Miriam, even the problem might even persist because that third neighbor might forge for one thing, Miriam. They will forge for one thing. They will forge for what we call an interest, conflict of interest. They will say, for me to help you, for me to forsake you, for me to do 1, 2, or 3 stuff for you, it will bring another conflict of interest. That is what Norway is now playing. Playing in this role, this Scandinavian nation. So, Miriam, what I think is that as far as Kenya is really concerned with East African community, I think we can have the patch to think about this Somalian question for once and for all. We don't want to be blamed that, Somalia came, it was the age of reconnaissance, Somalia thrived, Somalia came into stability, and then Somalia was pushed back into war by Kenya. We don't want that. Already, the East African side is having a lot of issues at hand. The South Sudan issue, the Sudan issue itself with Ethiopia, the Ethiopian Tigray issue. Dr. Matsanga has mentioned the Turkey's influence in Red Sea. Turkey it has a plan of putting the first naval overseas base in Red Sea. China already has that one. We know Djibouti is now the most militarized country in the whole of Africa, Miriam. And we know the relations between Somalia and Djibouti. We don't want any kind of, a trick-over effect of this, of this war. And what I see, if we really want to be, dealing with this regional issue, I think even United Nations, they don't have a role to play in this. The same way African Union, with that Muhammad Faki, which Dr. Matsanga has really critiqued him, and I also do, is that they have succeeded in establishing the African Free Trade Agreement area that is after. They are in the process of finalizing. Why can't they focus on this? IGAD is as if it's a toothless bulldog, Miriam. I'm speaking about the influence of regional organization. UN is up there. AU is middle there. We have IGAD here. We have East African Community. A lot of them. And yet, despite all those investments of financial capabilities and resources, I think what we should be seeing is that this deferral letter by Dr. Matsanga has one objective. It has one big objective. It has de-escalation objective. You de-escalate whatever has been escalated by these two principal powers. And look at these two similarities, Miriam. President Uhuru Kenyatta shall be leaving the stage in 2022. Mr. Farmajo is leaving the stage very soon. And Farmajo should stop delusion. The other day, Miriam, yesterday, I was watching Daily Monitor of Uganda, and Museveni was saying, he invited the wife of Pastor Lawum, who died, 50 years ago. He invited her with no knowledge that she died years ago. And he was speaking to journalists, and he was saying, I invited her, but I had no knowledge that she died. So if you are deriving advices, and especially diplomatic advice from such kind of an individual who is delusioned, Museveni is living in denial. Kenya is developing. Rwanda is going to the first world country very soon, Miriam. We are not speaking about that. Rwanda is really developing. And here you are. You are living in what we call Messiah complex now that your neighbors are really advancing. Tanzania is no longer in socialism, Miriam. Tanzania is really picking up under Magufuli. And now Museveni wants to tame another child who has no book and who has no uniform to go to school in the name of Somalia and make him a slave soldier again. It cannot happen in the eyes of the international community. It cannot happen. And I pray that even IGAD can intervene in this. Even IGAD, the other day they said, we don't see any conflict between, Somalia and Kenya. It is just, utterances here and there. And to rest my case before Douglas and Dr. Matsanga will advise us further, is that we have a situation here, Miriam. COVID-19 already has ravaged this global community. We've been ravaged by COVID-19. And now, instead of chartering the post-COVID-19 economic recovery program, we are chartering another south way of, creating such kind of unneeded attention. Kenya is mining. We have an oil in Tulo. We are mining an oil in Tulo, Turkana here. Our brother Somalia, they have one of the mostly sought after commodities in the world, that is uranium. I think we should be focusing on our more internal issues. Let Farmajo go and conduct that election so that we can talk about him. In this side of the country, as Kenyans, President Uhuru Kenyatta should just even tell Monica Juma, let's focus on BBI. Let's build our domestic policies before we focus on foreign policy, because foreign policy is useless now because of COVID-19. The only thing which can be done now is shadow diplomacy. It is direct relationship between these, presidents of the world. So I believe that, I think it is the deferral letter by Dr. Matsanga, the deferral, paper, will achieve one bigger objective. That is de-escalation. De-escalate. The other day we are seeing now The Gaza border, Miriam, I'm finishing up the Gaza border. Egypt has opened up the border with Palestine. People are opening up. Bahrain, the GCC brothers are normalizing their relations with, with Israel, Iran. They have said we are going to revise the enrichment of the nuclear power plant if Biden will talk to us. People are in the process of de-escalating. We don't have to escalate. We don't have to cause attention in this part of the Horn of Africa, Miriam. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Very well said there, Musa Abdi Haji, all the way from Isiolo. So one of our viewers here, Abdi Samad Alisi, represented very well. Thank you so much for watching. Douglas, the question that Doctor posed earlier there about the ramification of this case, whichever way the court will choose to rule, the relationship of these two countries will never, we know it's not the same, but we know it will perhaps change for the worst. And so what are some of the fears that we should have, regardless of how the court decides to rule, and how can this be avoided?
Thank you, Miriam. One thing I agree with is that there are things that are going to happen. But remember, what is happening today in Kenya and Somalia is just cosmetic tension between Farmajo administration and the government of Kenya. Economy of these two countries are not adversely affected because Kenya has been able to almost pacify peace in Somalia, and also they have continued providing their troops, and also Kenya has been termed as one of the largest, the biggest country in terms of human sacrifices, or the largest human sacrifices have been done by Kenya. So what is at stake is the security of the region and of the two countries, cooperation of the two countries that has been in existence even before the fall of Siande Barre in 1991, and also the economy of two nations, and also our common ambitions as a region. Another thing that I think is going to be touched in a wrong way is the history of our people. We have a clear history with the people of Somalia. These are people that we have funded with our taxpayers. This is a country that we have moved and also helped out since 1991 when Siade Barre took his country to the dogs, and also there was a civil war. The security of these two nations is very paramount. Remember, before Kenya went out to protect its porous border against Al-Shabaab and also against external aggression from the Al-Shabaab in Somalia, we had people who would come to our country and bomb our country. Now and then we used to live in tension. When you see people around town, the police used to search vehicles, the police would just frisk you and all manner of things. But now, after this ruling, either if it goes to Kenya or goes to Somalia, we are going to have security threats nationally and also in the region. Our economy as a region is going to be affected because there is a vibrant Somali community that is trending with these countries here in the region that are benefiting a lot from these mutual benefits in terms of trade and also mutual exchanges with the people of Somalia. Again, the students from Somalia who are studying across the region, the Horn of Africa and also East Africa, and also in our country are going to be adversely affected because the relations between these two countries will be affected. So I think one thing we need to understand is that our security is at stake, cooperation is at stake, our economy is at stake, and also history as a people is at stake. And why are we having all these problems? We are having these problems because we have greater resource, Western powers, Norway, Qatar, Turkey, and also to some extent the British. We are having these problems today because we are having greater resource, Western allies versus the region interest, versus the region's security, and also especially the security of two countries. Kenya and Somalia have been cooperating before, and it is the high time that the Republic of Kenya views Somalia as a partner against the war on terror, against people like Farmajo himself, who has demonstrated that his selfishness and also greed as a human being is more greater than the good of the people of Somalia. And also we need to, at this point, engage, like Dr. Masanga said, engage with the people of Somalia, have a conversation. If it means sharing of these resources, I share in the thought of Dr. David Matanga that we can now share these resources with our neighbors, We have shared security beliefs before. We have shared intelligence before. We have helped their country, and we are now pacifying peace in Somalia and withdraw our troops so that they can come in our country and also continue building their nation in other capacities as security forces. Again, we need to work on our security, cooperation, economy, and history as a people versus the external greedy interests of Western powers who want to exploit the world resources in Somalia and Kenya border cream point, where we have Kenya claiming that their border is supposed to be at this point and Somalia on this point. All these proxy wars that are being fought on the Indian Ocean, well proxy issue, are to benefit the world greedy, the resource greedy Western powers versus a Kenya that wants cooperation, security, our economy as a people, and also our history. We cannot be separated with the people of Somalia. I have said before, we are interconnected. The people of Somalia and the people of Kenya depend on each other. Actually, there are people in Somalia, in Somalia today, if they come to Kenya, they are Kenyan citizens because their grands, their families, brothers and sisters live in this country. So as a region, as two countries, bilaterally, we cannot be able to now abscond our own security, our own cooperation, which has been existent since for a long time now, and also our history as a people for external powers to continue their greed for our resources in the Indian Ocean. We can share those resources. We have shared more than resources before, and we can share them. And those forces in Somalia that are being used by the greedy resource powers should be stopped by all means, led by Farmajo, who is receiving his security briefs and everything from the dictator in Uganda, General Museveni, who does not recognize sovereignty of other countries and also independence of other countries, except that he has his way. So we need to de-escalate from these tensions, and also Farmajo in Somalia needs to be contained so that the people of Somalia can hold elections and elect a new president that can take their country forward. Miriam, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Now, Doctor, finally, should your letter to the United Nations not receive a favorable reply, what next? All right. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm clear.
All right, go ahead.
You asked a question, should my letter
Yes.
not receive
A favorable reply.
no problem. But I want you to have a copy. And I believe the production team should give you a copy and give a copy to everybody and every Kenyan and every Somali national, wherever they are. I would have done a great job for the world, Miriam. When you are doing international activism, don't aim at the results. Aim at how far you can escalate the matter that you are internationally talking about. I am trying to tell peace lovers in the world. I'm trying to awaken superpowers like Britain, a superpower that we have only one trading route, and that trading route is the Indian Ocean, the shortest for us to be able, as a British Empire, which is now isolated from the European Union, to be able to deliver the goods to Japan, to be able to deliver the goods to South America, to be able, not South America, Australia, New Zealand, Hawaii, not Hawaii, Tonga Islands, they are in the Caribbean, to be able in East Timor, Indonesia, Malaysia, Jakarta, Thailand. We have interests, China, Miami, where those generals have just come and taken another. This lady is very unfortunate. She's also a very bad political. I told Miriam to organize a good, international dispatches on Miami, on this, that country called Burma, formerly called Burma. That woman is very bad. This is now the third time they are putting her under house arrest. She is very, bad with very bad policies. Generals cannot be coming for you 3 times. The first time, yes, the whole world cried. So we need access to that area. But if my letter does not meet a favorable return, I would have done the people of Kenya, East Africa, and the Horn of Africa a very good pride for having been one of the only few people. Now wait, that letter has gone out. Within 2 days or 3 or 5 or 1 week, you'll see the government of Somalia writing to the UN Secretary General, alerting them that we are not like it, we are not. That's very good, because you have now also drawn them to answer this letter. The results of my letter might not come today. But the truth, are you removing the war? You go and make a ruling that the blocks, the oil blocks are for Somalia. You see how many Kenya Air Force planes will be arriving on the island to finish people die in the water. Remember, Somalia has been training secretly 1,000 pilots in Turkey. With the latest, and Miriam, you remember, Turkey offered Somalia the latest planes, which even America has not acquired. What they were they for? What were they for? They are for preparation of those blocks. So if the ruling goes, if the judges don't just find it necessary and say, go back and find an amicable solution by talking, sitting on table, let's prepare for the worst. Always don't prepare for the best. I was taught one thing, that when you are going out, prepare for the worst. You don't prepare for the journey to be very merry. Even call ahead and tell them, oh, put on that chicken, let it dry very well. You might not arrive. Yes. Just tell them, I will call you when I am at the airport. But don't tell them, no, I want you to make ice cream and plenty of it, buy this and prepare now. The plane might be cancelled. I've done that before. I've slept at the airport. Thanks God, my madam understands. Otherwise, he would have said, what is the problem? Where did you stay? I rang London and said, Ma'am, I'm coming. I'm at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. Just before 11 o'clock, 10:47, around there, an announcement came from the microphone up there in the loudspeaker to say the plane to London has been cancelled until tomorrow morning. Those flights that used to go at night. Until tomorrow morning, we are sorry for the inconveniences. All the passengers who had checked in, can you please come back or stay in your VIP lounge or stay in where you are seated? Our customer relations will come to contact you to arrange a hotel for you. And here I am, I'd left Intercontinental Hotel, telling them bye-bye, I will see you after 3 weeks. Immediately after midnight, they saw me with the luggage and the bag, arriving and looking for night food at night in a hotel. So you have to prepare, Miriam, for the worst and the panel. I have prepared for the worst. I've written for the worst. And the Miriam and the panel, for people who don't know, and all those listening to me, I wrote a letter regarding Libya. And I wish my panel could bring that, my technical team could bring that letter, which I wrote in 2012. If those words are not true today, then don't allow me to come on this show again. The words are true. I predicted the truth. I said there will be bloodshed. I was appealing to the United Nations. I was appealing to AU. I was appealing to President Museveni, telling him that, please, you people save Libya, save Gaddafi. Nobody listened to me. Am I not still alive? I'm alive. Where is Libya? Where is Libya today? The Libyans who used to get 5,000 shillings per after you have come out of university, you prepare $5,000 cash. Unanunua nyumba. Wapi sasa? They are the beggars. In fact, they are the biggest beggars in the world now. So, the only map that you can look for is the map that has God's hand. That is the map of God. This excuse of Kenya saying there is a map missing. You can't find the true map for the Indian Ocean. Doesn't the oil move?
Yes.
Can I ask a very funny question? This oil block, hasn't it moved? Maybe it is already near India. Is it stagnant? So you might be fighting on top of the water when the oil is already in China.
Yes, Doctor. We might be fighting over a very tip at the tip of the iceberg, while the source is in Madagascar or Comoros. We never know.
Exactly. Look at people. Why is Egypt? Why are the countries producing oil in North up there getting worried? Each country in Central African Republic, Congo, Uganda, everywhere there, they are discovering oil.
Sure.
So they are drilling this oil, which when you see the world is like this. Yes. When the river Nile flows with the water is steep. So the water drops there. What about if they drill oil from this side? There could be no oil on that side. You think that Qatar has oil anymore? After building Dubai, has it got oil anymore? Tell me how many of the oil drills that are taking place does United Arab Emirates sell oil anymore?
No.
That's why they're out looking for oil. The oil the desert is empty. The only country that still has oil is Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
And that's why if you go to the Red Sea, even if Red Sea is on your side, and you start digging one oil ridge there, Saudi Arabia will come with aircraft to bomb you. Because they don't want you to interfere with the oil in the main peninsula. So that is, Miriam, in the case the letter is not actioned on, I'm the happiest individual. I've gone to history. Isn't Karim Khan the chief prosecutor today? Who wrote the first letter before Ambassador Kenya's ambassador in The Hague saw the letter? Then they also wrote later on, 3 weeks later. Who? It's me. Am I not happy? I'm happy. My role is to teach international relations. And that is the best that I can do. I have brought to the attention of the Secretary General. It is up to the Kenya government or Somali government to explain, is there tension or no tension? As far as I know, we might pretend on top here, but down there in the skins, we are panicking. In the case this decision goes against Kenya, the Kenyans will say, Uhuru Kenyatta is a coward. Why is he not striking Somalia? In case the decision goes against Somalia, Miriam, Somalis will say, Farimajo is a sellout. Why is he not hitting Kenya? Why didn't he call it in Turkey? That is my position. And I want to thank you very much, all of you, for listening to me.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Matsanga. Thank you so much, Musa Abdi Haji. Thank you, Douglas Kirimi. It's interesting that your counties just neighbor each other there. All right. And thank you so much for watching. We'll see you later. Bye-bye for now.
Peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.